Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. Whoever you are and wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here, and we're very glad that you're here today. As has been our pattern, please submit your prayer cards before entering the sanctuary. If needed, please raise your hand and the deacon can collect those prayers at this time. And then also, we're now returning to our previous practice of passing the offering plate later on in the service today. Communion will be after worship in the parlor, as well as online. Children and the occasional sounds that they make are always welcome in worship. After the children's moment, the teachers will lead the children to Sunday school. Sunday school is for 3-year-olds through 10-year-olds. And then we also have Carla and Alicia, and they're ready in the nursery to look after your babies and toddlers. Children are welcome to play on the playground with adult supervision. Some announcements for today. So longtime Duke Gardeners volunteer and Master Gardener Karen Webbing will lead a tour of the gardens today. She is in the fellowship hall, so she'd like for you to let her know beforehand if you plan on attending today, and then you guys will meet at 2 p.m. at the gardens. If you enjoy yoga, come out to church on this Saturday for a professionally taught yoga class at 9 a.m. Bring a friend, and then no one is turned away for lack of funds. Pilgrim's long-standing Christ Mount retreat is happening the last weekend of October, so the 28th through the 30th. Rooms will be up to 125. Come enjoy fellowship in our beautiful North Carolina mountains. Sign up on the clipboard at fellowship and or reach out to Gail Booth. And then additionally, for those staying in town that weekend, please join us for trunk or treat during fellowship on the 30th. All who care to are invited to transform their cars into something spooky or special. And then children and adults are invited to come to church in costume and stay after for a Halloween story with Susie and go trick-or-treating in our parking lot. Anyone from the community is welcome to join. There are flyers on the table where you picked up your bulletin this morning. Please stand and join me reading the call of worship, which you will find in your bulletin. When we long for gentleness, you, O God, are a kind grandparent. When we need to rage, you, O God, are the crashing sea. When we yearn for freedom, you, O God, are our flung open gate. When we need the sustenance of beauty, you, O God, are the rising moon. When we wished we witnessed, you, O God, take our face sweetly in your hand. You meet us where we are. You meet us here today. You'll find the lyrics for today's gathering hymn in your online bulletin. Please join us in singing hymn number 456, God of the Fertile Fields.
Ancient God of even this moment, forgive us when we place limits on your radical love. Forgive us when our imaginations are limited to only the patterns we see before us. Instead, expand our acts of repair beyond the performative and shallow. Guide us into soulful self-reflection and courageous transformation as we offer our hearts to you. I don't see any physical prayers at this time. Are there any physical prayers? There were none. Okay, all right. Well, I am full of faith that there are plenty of prayers in our hearts and minds, both for those of us who are here and those of us who are joining us online. So let's just take a moment to let those prayers just kind of rise out in our hearts. So let's hold those prayers together. Know that we have a community here to help us with our prayers and to celebrate for our prayers of joy and gratitude. God, in your mercy, hear our prayer. Okay, and so as Pastor Lindy is in Florida with her family this weekend, I'm wearing two hats. So it's time for the children's moment. Come on up, children, and those who would like to join in for the children's moment anyways. Hey, there it is. So you can see I've got my friends, but we're going to tell the story together today. Okay. Good to see everybody. Good to see all of you up here. Okay.
Hello, everyone. It is good to see all of you. Hello, 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 hello. So I know my job for today's children's moment.
Oh, you do?
Yes, my job. Oh, yes, you know my job. I help with the children's moments. Very good. So I need to share a story to help us understand how being a shepherd or a sheep in a flock is kind of like being a steward in our church family. That's why you got the book, because we're going to be talking about that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a pretty big task, Red Bunny. Do you feel up to it?
Oh my goodness. Of course I am up to it. I am an exceedingly capable bunny, as you well know. But first, I have a question. What is the big deal with the sheep in the Bible? There are sheep all over the place. We got a sheep over there. It's like lost lambs, and the Lord is my shepherd, and so like, what's the big deal with all these sheep?
Well, that's a really helpful question, Red Bunny. I think a short answer would just be that a big part of the culture of the Hebrew people from before and during Jesus' time was that of a herding people, because they had to move a lot for different reasons. And if you have sheep and goats and things like that you take care of, they can move with you.
You think so? You can take the sheep with you? You think, and the goats, they could come, they could walk along? Oh, well, I guess that makes sense.
And also make clothes out of them.
Oh, that's what I was wondering about, is why sheep matter so much. So you say you could make clothes out of the wool? What else do you think the sheep could help with?
Food.
Oh, yes, I guess, because you could some people would make milk and cheese, and then people might eat them. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. How do you think, what do you think it takes to keep sheep healthy? What does that mean to take good care of them? Oh, what do sheep eat? Oh. No, they do not eat animals. Goodness, let's clarify that. Sheep they eat plants, right? They eat grass and they drink water. So if you're taking good care of sheep, You have to know how to take them to those places, I imagine. Oh, and so taking care of sheep, taking good care of them is kind of like taking care of yourself too, because of all the things the sheep can give you. Are you listening to me? Okay, good. Very good. Okay.
Well, do you think we should go ahead and read the story, Red Bunny?
Yes. Sorry, why don't you read it and I'll sit here for a second.
Okay, I'll read it. Okay. All right. You guys see well, I'll read it and then I'll hold up the pictures afterwards. Okay. Oof. When Jesus and his disciples, Jesus told his disciples they were like sheep when they cared for each other, and Jesus was their shepherd. They would be like goats if they didn't listen and didn't care. He said, "Do you remember when you fed the woman who was hungry?" "Yes," they replied. "Do you remember when you visited the old man in prison?" he asked. "Oh, yes, he was lonely," they answered. "Do you remember when you gave clothing to the children who didn't have anything to wear?" Jesus asked. "Yes, they were very cold," they remembered. "Every time you care for someone, it is like you are caring for me too," Jesus explained. "God will welcome you into the kingdom of heaven." The disciples wanted to be like sheep. They knew they would be welcome in heaven. You can see the pictures. See it? Yeah. Okay.
Well, I know that today, some of us, we get to see a special play about stewardship, which is a big word, but it basically means caring for the community in different kinds of ways. And that's what Jesus was talking about. Stewardship, kind of being a shepherd is kind of like being a steward, but stewardship is not just for grown-ups. No. Stewardship is for everybody. What kinds of ways do you think children help out our community and our stewards to make the church a happier, better place? I know Brandon Paul does something that helps us already. What's the thing you do?
We planted flowers.
Oh, you planted flowers during vacation Bible school and Sunday school? Oh, that's a beautiful thing. What did you do to get that? Did you help with acolyting? Yeah, lighting the candles to help us start worship.
Red ones.
You planted red flowers. Very nice. And do you think that even just being here during the children's moment maybe makes the grown-ups out there have a happy, special feeling just to get to enjoy seeing the children? You're already being stewards just by sharing yourselves. Yeah. Can I see hands from the grown-ups if the children show you how to be stewards?
Yeah.
Yeah, they show you? Oh, that's wonderful. You show me too. Okay, well, I think that's our children's moment. Shall we get in our circle and do our 3 breaths and then do the prayer? Okay, remember we do a prayer for our loving parent God, for Jesus, and for what's the last one? Holy Spirit inside. Okay, let's do it. Everybody, hand, pot, tentacle, whatever you got, reaching out.
Our loving parent God, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Our scripture reading this morning is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 17, verses 11 through 19. On the journey to Jerusalem, Jesus passed along the borders of Samaria and Galilee. As Jesus was entering a village, 10 people with leprosy met him. Keeping their distance, they raised their voices and said, "Jesus, Rabbi, have pity on us." When Jesus saw them, he responded, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." As they were going, they were healed. One of them, realizing what had happened, came back, praising God in a loud voice, then fell down at the feet of Jesus and spoke his praises. The individual was a Samaritan. Jesus replied, "Weren't all 10 made whole? Where are the other 9? Was there no one to return and give thanks except this foreigner?" Then Jesus said to the Samaritan, "Stand up and go your way. Your faith has saved you." May our still speaking God grant us wisdom and understanding.
Sometimes people leave you halfway through the wood. Others may deceive you to decide what's good. You decide what's wrong, but no one is Mother isn't here now. Who knows what she said? Nothing's quite so clear now. Still you've lost your way. Decide, but you are not alone. Believe me, no one is alone. Believe me, truly, you just a finger. Say the slightest word. Something's bound to linger. Be heard. No one is alone. Careful, no one is alone. People make mistakes. Fathers, people make mistakes, holding to their own, thinking they're alone. Honor their mistakes, one another's terrible mistakes. Witches can be right, giants can be good. You decide what's right, you decide what's good. Just remember, someone is on your side, our side, someone else is not. What we're seeing, our side, maybe
My name is Beth Bowling. It used to be Beth Harward, and I like the Harward simply because it associates me with this church and the history I have in this church, and going all the way back to James O'Kelly. But this is the first of Sundays in October when we're going to be talking about stewardship, as Felix indicated. When Amy and Lindy asked me to chair the endeavor, my first thought was, no. I tend to take on more than I can comfortably do, but I said yes. And I think it was because in my 66 years in this church, this was one role I had not taken on. And I simply felt called to do it for my church, for your church. Somebody had to do it. As you know from reading the letter that I sent out via Franklin, of course, our theme for stewardship is rooted in love. And by rooted, I mean our history. We have a long, beautiful history. And I can't help but look around this sanctuary and see the many gifts that have been given to us since the church was built in 1967. We had to dig deep to get the money to build the church, and then we needed furnishings. So take the sanctuary, for example. Building it was a large endeavor, and furnishing it was difficult as well. But have you noticed some of these things that are gifts that have been given to us by those who came before us? For example, right outside those doors that you come into, in the narthex area, on the wall to the left of those doors as you come in from outside, is a beautiful iron sculpture of the UCC logo. It was given by the Mulholland family, which I knew very well, all of them. Have you noticed that? If not, I want to see all of you on your way out that way and turn right. Of course, the organ that we have in this church was given to Pilgrim by a prominent doctor and member, Dr. Waldo Boone, and his family. And it's safe to say that not too many churches of this size have an organ like we have, pipes. If you've never gone up those little steps and you feel like it's safe for you to do that, go up and take a look. Don't touch anything and don't trip on all the tech cords, but really, you should take a look at it and think about that organ. It's gorgeous. We're so lucky.
It's $5.
That'll help with repairs on the stairs. Okay. I'm sure you've noticed this beautiful grand piano in here. This was a gift from a former choir director and beloved choir director, I should say, Lois Strother. And in the choir room is another grand piano given by, this was Martha Fairbank. I'm sorry, Martha Fairbank gave this one. The one in the choir room was by Lois Strother, both of whom were longtime choir directors. And there's one in the fellowship hall given by Ann Aitchison. How many churches this size have 3 grand pianos? I'm just saying. Have you noticed that many of the pews that you sit in were given in honor or memory of a loved one? Read those name plates. Think about those persons who gave the money to purchase these pews. And have you ever come to Pilgrim early and sat in your pew, because I have one too, and just looked through the hymnal? There are all kinds of surprises in there. I'm just saying. In fact, in the beginning, you'll see that many of them were given in honor or memory of someone. This is how we purchased those hymnals. And if you take a peep at page, not now though, but if you take a peep at page S2, you'll see a brief history of Pilgrim written by Creighton Lacey, a longtime member. There are all kinds of little tidbits in there. All of these are gifts that we tend to take for granted. But so many gifts have been given to us by those who came before us. We are indeed rooted in love. Gear shift change. As a very young child growing up in the Main Street Christian church, which is where I actually joined the church, I was a big fan of a TV show called Captain Kangaroo. And it was one of the few shows my mother would let us watch because, well, there were only 3 channels back in those days when dinosaurs roamed. But I loved Captain Kangaroo and all his host of characters with Mr. Green Jeans and Mr. Moose, a puppet. And this was pre-Sesame Street, so it's really historical. Captain Kangaroo used to read books in every episode, and I loved it. Children's books. I just absolutely adored it. And one book I fell in love with and ended up purchasing when I was teaching in middle school. I used it in middle school. Yes, I did. And I'm going to use it with you all. I think you will see, once you see and hear it, that it does relate to stewardship. So to keep you from being bored while I read this book to you, yes, I'm going to read it to you because Lindy said I could talk as long as I wanted. And it's the size of War and Peace. No, not really. I'm going to read to you the book called Stone Soup, written in 1947, still just as poignant. And, well, Playmakers, Pilgrim Playmakers, take your places, please. Loosen up, Playmakers. Relax. 3 soldiers trudged down a road in a strange country. They were on their way home from the wars. Besides being tired, and they were very hungry, very hungry. In fact, they had eaten nothing for 2 days. How I would like a good dinner tonight, said the first, and a bed to sleep in, said the second. But all that is impossible, said the third. We must march on. On they marched. Suddenly ahead of them, they saw the lights of a village. Maybe we'll find a bite to eat there, said the first. And a loft to sleep in, said the second. No harm in asking, said the third. Now the peasants of that place feared strangers. When they heard that 3 soldiers were coming down the road, they talked among themselves. Here come 3 soldiers. Soldiers are always hungry, but we have little enough for ourselves. And they hurried to hide their food. They pushed sacks of barley under the hay in the lofts. They lowered buckets of milk down the wells. They spread old quilts over the carrot bins. They hid their cabbages and potatoes under the beds. They hung their meat in the cellars. They hid all they had to eat. Then they waited. The soldiers stopped first at the house of Paul and Francois. Good evening to you, they said. Could you spare a bit of food for 3 hungry soldiers? We have had no food for ourselves in 3 days, said Paul. Francois made a sad face. It's been a poor harvest. The 3 soldiers went on to the house of Albert and Louise. Can you spare a bit of food and have you some corner where we could sleep for the night? Oh, no, said Albert. We gave all we could spare to soldiers who came before you. Our beds are full, said Louise. At Vincent and Maurice, the answer was the same. It had been a poor harvest and all the grain must be kept for seed. So it went all through the village. Not a peasant had any food to give away. But they all had good reasons. One family had used the grain for feed. Another had an old sick father to care for. All had too many mouths to feed. The villagers stood in the street and sighed. They looked as hungry as they could. The three soldiers talked together. The first soldier called out, "Good people." The peasants drew near. "We are hungry soldiers in a strange land. We have asked you for food and you have no food. Well then, we'll have to make stone soup." The peasants stared. Stone soup? That would be something to know about. "First, we'll need a large iron pot," the soldiers said. So the peasants brought the largest pot they could find. How else to cook enough? "That's none too large," said the soldiers, "but it will do. And now we need water to fill it and a fire to heat it." It took many buckets to fill the pot with water. Don't light them. A fire was built on the village square and the pot was set to boil. And now, if you please, 3 round, smooth stones. Now, those were easy enough to find. Yeah. The peasants' eyes grew round and they watched the soldiers drop the stones into the pot. "Any soup needs salt and pepper," said the soldiers as they began to stir. Children ran to fetch salt and pepper, or child ran to fetch salt and pepper. Now, stones like these generally make a good soup, but if there were carrots, it would be much better. "Why, I think I have a carrot or two," said Francois, and off she ran. She came back with her apron full of carrots from the bin beneath the red quilt. "Now, a good stone soup should have cabbage," said the soldiers as they sliced the carrots into the pot. "And no use asking for what you don't have." "Well, I think I could find a cabbage somewhere," said Marie, and she hurried home. Back she came with 3 cabbages. Oops, make that 2. I know I should have. I really should have. Back she came with 3 cabbages from the cupboard under the bed. "If only we had a bit of beef and a few potatoes. This soup would be good enough for a rich man's table." The peasants thought that over. They remembered the potatoes and sides of beef hanging in the cellars. They ran to fetch them. A rich man's soup. All from a few stones. It seemed like magic. "Ah," sighed the soldiers as they stirred in the beef and the potatoes. "If we only had a little barley and some milk, the soup would be fit for the king himself. Indeed, the king asked for just such a soup when last he dined with us." The peasants looked at each other. The soldier had entertained the king well. But no use asking for what you don't have, the soldier sighed. The peasants brought their barley from the lofts. They brought their milk from the wells. The soldiers stirred the barley and milk into the steaming broth. while the peasants just stared. At last, at long last, the soup was ready. All of you shall taste, the soldier said. I better not look at them because I'm going to laugh. But first, a table must be set. So great tables were placed in the square, and all around were pretend lighted torches. Such a soup! How good it smelled! Truly fit for a king. But then the peasants asked themselves, would not such a soup require bread and a roast and some cider? We don't have those. Soon a banquet was spread and everyone sat down to eat. Never had there been such a feast. Never had the peasants tasted such soup, and fancy, made from stones. They ate and drank and ate and drank, and after that, they danced. They danced and sang far into the night. I can't stop this. It's too much fun. But at last, they were tired. Then the three soldiers asked, is there not a loft where we could sleep? Let three such wise and splendid gentlemen sleep in a loft. Indeed, they must have the best beds in the village. So the first soldier slept in the priest's house, and the second soldier slept in the baker's house, and the third soldier slept in the mayor's house. In the morning, the whole village gathered in the square to send the soldiers off. Many thanks for what you have taught us, the peasants said to soldiers. We shall never go hungry now that we know how to make soup from stones. Oh, it's all in knowing how, said the soldiers, and off they went down the road. I'm so grateful to these people. I know I can be dramatic, but that was wonderful. And I only had to twist a few arms to get them to do that. All right, you know where I'm going with this. So the soldiers tricked the villagers, the peasants, we know that, and that makes them not quite as how shall I put this, bright as they should be. But that's not the point of the story. The real point would be soup made out of stones with just water and stones. Not so good. But if everybody tosses in a little something that they have, no matter how little it is, maybe it's 1 carrot, it's a better soup for everybody to enjoy. I want you to think about how you feel about this church, the relationships that you have here, the wonderful employed personnel who work so hard for us, the many volunteers who work diligently to make Pilgrim what we know and love. It's important that we all take ownership and participate in the life of our beloved church. There are many ways that you can give to this church. Volunteer. Say yes when asked. When it comes to giving of your resources and your thoughts about pledging for 2023, just so you'll know, pledges can be made on Pilgrim's website. Just go to giving, click on that, and you'll see where you can pledge. It's very simple. Or you can send Franklin a written message in the office or just call him It's very simple to do. No matter what you have to give, don't be ashamed of what you have. If you can only give 2 carrots a month, that's okay. We all benefit from that. If you love this church like I do, and you love it for what it stands for the relationships you've made, for how we help those who need us, and how pilgrims work so hard for justice for all, or because you just feel at home here, consider adding to the delicious soup that is Pilgrim. Every little bit helps. Amen. Our communal resources are to be a living offering. Our shared spaces, a sanctuary. Our shared money, a tool for liberation. Our shared skills, expressions of dedication and love. We gather what we have, that it may be so. Please join me in the prayer of dedication. Human rights activist Rebecca Solnit writes that disaster shocks us out of slumber, but only skillful efforts keep us awake. Creative Spirit, on behalf of those experiencing disaster, we dedicate our offerings to skillful efforts. Keep us awake to the undergirding and evolving needs of our community. Amen.
I realized once I sat down that I should have left that mic right there, but I'll do attitude of gratitude from here. So we have been making an effort over the summer and into the fall to really be cultivating those things, those qualities, those habits of mind that help us to find joy and help us to find resilience. We know the things that have been going on for Pilgrims personally, and then for our whole darn country. So let's do some gratitude. First off, let's have some more gratitude for the actors today. That brought a lot of joy. That was lovely. I also wanted to put out some gratitude for the folks who were able to come to the board orientation last weekend. It was great. I feel like we really put out some good energy, some good visioning, some even small things that I think we're already starting to try and put into operation to just move forward with our vision for Pilgrim and to give energy and life to our church. And then I also wanted to give an attitude of gratitude mentioned for our confirmands and mentors. I don't know how many of you are aware, but last weekend we also started our confirmation program for the year, which we haven't done in a few years yet, but we have a crop of 5 youths that are going to be coming to confirmation class. We're going to go visit some faith communities. They'll be doing some community service. You'll probably see them at worship from time to time. So let's enjoy that moment of gratitude for all of those different pieces that are happening right now. Okay. All right. Well, Beth, I'll step down. Let you. Oh, it's all me now? Oh, it's all me. Okay. Very professional operation we run without Pastor Lindy. Okay. Go forth in softness, protected from systems of harm, encouraged by relationships of care, surprised by joy, heartened by beauty, and emboldened for the work of co-creating a way through each day. The peace of Christ be with you. You are invited to share in the passing of the peace, either here or over in fellowship. And yes, let's let Brandon Paul have his moment with the candle.